Hey guys, sad news about Gorbachev, right?
Yeah. Unless you're Russian. A lot of the Russians hate him.
Wait a second. What happened?
Wait a minute. What happened? I was talking about the British punk band, Gorbachev. They broke up. Who are you talking about?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We read different parts of the newspaper, I think.
Apparently.
So this is going to be a short show, right? We only have 5 stories. Is that right? There's nothing new to talk about LastPass about, right?
No.
There's a lot of things we could talk about that are reemerging in the news, like quantum and stuff like that. But I think I think we can get some good pointers on this. One of the things that we want to keep in the show is, the education side of things, like the best practices, the things you should know. I think we can, with these 5 stories, and I think we should talk about LastPass again.
Last show, during the show, we got this message. I got a message that LastPass had been, internally violated. I guess one of their developers walked off with some source code, and there's no evidence that they took passwords or could do anything, right?
Nah.
User accounts.
No, sir.
No.
There's been a couple of instances of this. I think 1Password had an incident. I think this is LastPass's second big incident. But in each case with the password managers, there hasn't been any indication that there's ever been a breach where like someone could get into your system and know the master password for your stuff.
Right.
They do a really good job of that. And that's compartmentalization. So let's talk about that for a second. Okay. In your life, with your passwords and your things, there's things that you compartmentalize that you have high security for. There's things you have low security for. For example, you probably have a shed, and there's probably lots of things in that shed that are worth money, but they're not high value. Shovels, rakes, things like that. And you probably don't lock the shed the same way you lock your house.
In Connecticut, we call that a garage. I don't know what you call it in New Hampshire.
A garage.
We call it a garage.
So in New Hampshire, we have sprawling estates with both sheds and garages. But there are things that you leave out on the lawn and you don't worry about them. But there's other things that you would,
especially the further south you get. There's more things on the lawn.
Yeah.
Things made out of rubber tires.
So if you spray paint, what did Jeff Foxworthy said? If you ever mowed your lawn and found a car, you might be a redneck. But it doesn't mean you don't value those things. It's just that they're in an outer layer of security. They're not high value. They're not high target. And the same is true with your passwords. There are passwords that are your banking information, which are the absolute most valuable things, and maybe your email, because that's the keys to the kingdom. But, if I have a MapQuest username and password, you might, if you want to assassinate me, that might be useful. But other than that, it's probably not very useful.
Well, unless you're one of those people who uses the same password for everything.
Which you shouldn't be. You need to not be.
But there's a lot of people that do. And so therefore, if one of these things gets hacked, somebody can say, oh, I wonder if this person has a bank account or an American Express card or Visa card or whatever, and they can go on a rampage.
And scary, get ready for the hacker advice. There's actually tools out there you can use. You can put in a username like P. Hines, and you can find out whether that's used as a Twitter handle, Instagram, and you can apply that to like 30, 50 services all at one time. So there's tools out there. So if I know, this is your Gmail, and I know the password you're using for that, I can look at 50 other services to see if that same handle, alias, is used for those other services.
It's criminal career advice.
And we have to give some of that advice so that people know what they're up against.
Honestly, it is standard operating procedure when we're breaking into an organization. We'll do research on all of our potential employees at that company and see what passwords they use on other sites that have been breached, and then see if we can use those against the organization. That's like step number 1.
I was really disappointed to see some friends on Facebook say, this puts the nail in the coffin. You shouldn't be using a password manager. Oh. And I thought to myself, that is the dumbest advice.
That's exactly what I want to address. That's why I want to address this again, is it's kind of the same, and I've used this analogy before. It's kind of the same people as saying, there was an accident somewhere in the Midwest where someone died because they had a seatbelt on. So for that reason, you shouldn't wear seatbelts.
Exactly.
It's a bad example. Could it happen? Yes. You get owned because you use password manager. You're much more likely to get owned because you keep using the same password. And password manager allows you to not use the same password.
Right.
Yeah,
100%.
and in the wake of this LastPass thing, it's probably still a good idea for you to update your master password.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, it is, and I'll also say this: if you want to be old school and you want to be crazy,
like Patrick,
I won't say that any of us. Okay, maybe me. You can use an older version of the password managers that are not online, that are not cloud based.
Okay.
And you can put them in a secure location like a password protected share on a password protected computer, in a panic room, at the bottom of a bunker, in a missile silo that's guarded by killer bees.
At the bottom of the ocean.
Right. With Davy Jones.
But you can do that.
Put a buoy, a buoy so you can row out there every once in a while.
Don't give away my buoy, man. Don't give away my buoy.
It's like, what are you doing? I'm looking at my password for Yahoo.
But here's the thing. The buoy's only visible at low tide.
So
you set the string a little bit low. Okay.
Patrick.
All right.
You know what? I think that I agree. You say all the time that convenience is the enemy of security, and that's definitely not convenient. Like, the only way you have access to your password is if you're at home on one system that has it offline. That's kind of the equivalent of taking like a password notebook and writing it down and then burying it in the backyard every day.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it. I don't know. I'm okay with the cloud ones. That's just me. The cloud ones
prefer the John Wick.
pretty secure.
I prefer the John Wick you buried in cement in your basement. So that way the drones can't find it.
When you need a password, he's down there with a pick, taking the basement apart.
Yeah, outside your house is what the heck is that?
They make some really good rock hammers nowadays.
So the other piece of advice I have is not for criminals, but for everybody else. For your LastPass or LastPassword, whatever, your password manager password, make it a phrase. And it doesn't have to be a complex phrase, but a short sentence, maybe 7 or 8 words that you can remember. Probably not the lyrics to Louie Louie.
I recommend Security This Week as my favorite podcast. That's a good one.
password. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, or the lyrics to a song.
Yeah, the lyrics to a song, some from a song, but it's a phrase.
Yeah, passphrases are so much solider.
Yeah, and then throw a # or an exclamation mark or a hashtag or, percent
or all of them.
There.
Sprinkle them all in
Just
there.
sprinkle a little entropy in there. And
you got to remember how to type it. That's the big thing.
That's right.
All of my passwords are "It's criminal." Career advice. That's what I use.
Criminal.
Career advice. That's my password for everything now.
All right, let's get on to the real stories.
All right.
Blue badges.
Blue badges.
Blue badges.
All right, so
this story makes me want to scream, "Get off my lawn."
Oh, I know. It's funny. I was talking to my red team leaders this week about this story, and they were like, "Ugh, this is probably good." And I was like, "No, stop. Come on, it's not good." And they're like, "No, it's probably good." Those badge grubbing. I was like, all right, calm down.
Well, it's just it's generational. People value different things generationally.
Patrick, in my generation,
we
valued a tank.
There's been some stories that the younger generations are falling for things at a faster rate than the older generations.
Oof.
Mostly because they're online more and they interact more. So even if they're more savvy, they're still getting owned quite as often.
Before we move on, let's actually talk about what the story is. So, for those of you who have seen us on Twitter, y'all know we're on Twitter. And for those of you who've heard us talk about TikTok, we're not on TikTok. But there are all sorts of new.
We almost were.
We were this close.
We were this close.
So, each of these systems, if you are an influencer, I throw the air quotes out. If you're
verified,
if you're an influencer, you get verified. You get a badge. Twitter has the little stupid green check mark, and then
aren't you an influencer for Pringles, Dwayne? No.
Yeah. Who isn't?
Sorry. So if you're an Instagram influencer?
So if you're an Instagram influencer, you get this little blue badge. And usually everybody's hunting for this little badge that says that you're a verified important person in the Instagram world, right? And people should listen to you. And it's goofy because there are some people who have, 50, 60,000 people following them and still don't have blue badges. Same thing with Twitter. I mean, there were a couple of accounts I was looking at today that have 20, 25,000 people following them, and they still don't have a green check mark.
I think it has less to do with the number of people that follow you as the IQ of the people that follow you and will click on your links and buy crap no matter what you say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of times they're looking for a brand. Like if you are, I don't know, some famous actor,
Pringles.
like your name is your brand. There
Carl
you
Franklin.
go. You're Mr. Pringles.
Yeah.
You're Carl Franklin.
Let me get my monocle.
Right. Then you get that verified badge. The problem is the process for getting these badges is always influencers chasing Instagram or influencers chasing Twitter. They're like constantly applying. They have to send references. They have to put in links to why they're an influencer,
right,
or why their brand matters, or blah, blah, blah. It's a process. It's a massive process. And this phishing campaign is pretty smart. They sent out a phishing campaign to people on Instagram saying, "Hey, we have your blue badge. We've said that we've checked you out. We believe that you're an influencer. You have 48 hours to click on this link and fill in information so we can just verify that this is your account."
Let me read exactly what the email said. And it was from IG-badges at, Joe's discountsharkcages.com or someplace. And it says, "Hi, whatever. Your Instagram account has been reviewed by us and has been deemed eligible for the blue badge. To get your blue badge, please click the badge form button below and fill the form carefully." Not fill out the form, fill the form carefully. Make sure you fill, and then make sure you fill out the form correctly and completely. Period, capital, otherwise. So bad grammar. Your account will not be verified. Now, here's the thing. Grammarly exists, right? So here's a little
Not
more.
for the hackers.
It's criminal career advice.
Check your effing grammar before you send out a campaign of spam to millions of people, right? You're just giving yourself away, man.
Maybe they don't want the smart people, and they want the people who don't.
Hey, these are Instagram influencers. They're smart people.
If they were influencers that already have a badge.
Wow. So there's so many red flags with this. There are parts of this campaign that were very, very, very well done. So what you there's a couple different things. If you're sending spam, and you're phishing someone and you want somebody to click on something and give you information, there's a couple different things you do. One, urgency. You have to set urgency in some way.
Right.
Your bank account has been breached. Somebody logged into your Gmail account, whatever it may be. They did a great job here. Now we're going to evaluate the score of this particular phishing campaign. They did a great job with urgency. Listen, you have 48 hours to come click on this link and give us all of your information, which is kind of silly because, and we'll talk about the psychology of this as well. The form on the back end didn't just say, "Give us your username and password to Instagram," because that would have been weird, right?
Yeah.
Okay, why am I giving? Yeah. Right. And they couldn't just assume that the password would be automatically entered because the URL was wrong, right? So if I said save my Instagram password in my browser, when I went to this site, it wouldn't have populated
because it wouldn't recognize it as Instagram.
Right, exactly. It would have been a different company. So they're like, yeah, we're not going to put this in here. But what they did psychologically is they walked you through 2 or 3 different pages of forms. Give us some information, click next. Give us a little bit more information, click next. Tell us what your user account name is, click next. Okay, what's your password just to verify? So you're now invested from a psychology standpoint.
Yeah.
You've now gone through the process of, you've given them a little bit of information.
Freaking brilliant. And they just criminals can't even use Grammarly.
Okay. So let's talk about what, if this was real.
Yeah.
If Instagram really did want to contact you and say your badge is ready, what would have been a way to do it to not train people to do the wrong thing? Because That's the thing that's missing in these conversations.
Yeah. Log into Instagram with the app.
Yeah.
Tell them to go back to the app, and under their profile, they'll see a new button that says finish blue badge thing.
Yeah.
In other words, don't tell them to click on something. Don't tell them to go somewhere. Tell them to go to the place that's
Already
safe.
authenticated. Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm the credit card company, I should tell you to call the number on the back of the credit card because I can't manipulate that.
Right.
Right. But it's ironic you say that because if you truly are an influencer and you truly do have tens of thousands of people following you or you're a brand or whatever, you're probably in this app all the time. So it would be super easy for you to just throw another menu item saying, hey, or throw, a pop-up. This is, hey, you have been verified for your badge. The other thing is realize that there are people whose seems like their entire job is chasing getting these badges. So Instagram is not reaching out to you ever. Neither is Twitter. Neither is any other process reaching out to you going, hey, we got one for you, even though,
Too
half
good
the
to be
planet
true. It
wants it.
probably is.
Dwayne, you're giving our listeners, not the criminals, advice on, and it's very unlike you. Are you your evil twin Shane by any chance?
First off,
his twin's
name's
more
Jared.
evil. His twin's even more
Yeah,
evil.
and he's more evil than I am.
Really?
Yeah, he is actually.
How do we
I'm
know?
the good twin.
How do we know? The good Dwayne. Yeah. Okay. All right. So long and short of it is don't ever just click on an email, anything. Go to where you are authenticated in the app, in the whatever. And if they really want you to know something, they'll tell you.
And that's what we should do. We need to get a culture where we don't ask people to click on the link.
Right.
Where instead we say
100%.
you should go back to our site. You know what it is.
Yep.
And put in, and under account, you'll see this. And they can even show them screenshots of what they'll see. But at no time should I want a user to click on something in an email if it can be avoided. Because it's training them to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if just email systems nowadays should just always strip out hyperlinks. Just everything. Just all of them.
I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but I think eventually we'll get there.
Because it's inconvenient, but still.
All right, guys, should we take a break? Yeah. Let's break.
Sure.
We'll be back after these very important messages.
Woohoo!
All right, now this next story, I think Patrick must have added this to the list. And it's an article from Forbes that says the next boom in cybersecurity companies, offense. Patrick, did you indeed give us the
We were
story?
offense before offense was cool. That's
Well,
all I
you
can
were.
say.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a very different mindsets. There's the defensive mindset and there's the offensive mindset.
Right.
And some people find our mindset very offensive. So the defensive is, okay, I'm going to worry about this. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to, I got video cameras. I've got this. I've got firewalls.
Yeah.
And our principle on the offensive side is that's all important stuff. That's all stuff you need to do. But that's table stakes. That's what you have to do just to have a chance to survive. If you really want to be secure, you have to let somebody who's actually good at this stuff try to break down the walls. Because otherwise you don't, it's like having a weapon and not test firing it. But when I was in the Army, we test fired weapons all the time because, it might look clean. It might look serviceable, but if that firing pin doesn't actually hit the primer, it's not going to go off. So you have to test fire, and offensive operations is the way you test fire.
So are we talking about penetration testing? You hire somebody to try to hack into, like you guys. That's what you do.
So that's what I took away from it. But the article is talking a lot about vendors who are selling offensive tools.
Okay.
So up till now, vendors have been mostly worried about, this is for
defense.
Yeah, this is defense. This is only for defense.
Right.
Any offensive use of this is unauthorized and
Malware
against our
bites.
will. But now they're starting to see an opening for people need to be able to use these tools in offense, and they're starting to become a groundswell of people who say there should be a way to hack back.
So does that mean
Yes.
the next version of Windows is going to have a program called Microsoft Offender?
Oh my God, that'd be great.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Unfortunately, the number of people who shoot themselves in the face with it would be enormous.
That'd be huge. Huge.
Self-own button. So it's more about, getting the tools out of the small places and into bigger places.
Yeah.
It's complicated though, because attribution is very difficult. Knowing
It
who
is.
actually hit you is not a simple process.
Okay.
No, so hack back when you're pointed at an actual APT or adversary or something along those lines, I agree 100%. But using a offensive is one of your best defense. Like, let's offensively test our own company. Let's offensively test, partners and that sort of stuff. I think that's huge. We actually just saw, obviously we're an offensive company. We're very offensive. So we get hired to break into places and think
red teams, penetration testing, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So, our typical bailiwick is not something like forensics, right? Where a computer gets breached and somebody calls us in. Yeah. Somebody calls us in and says, hey, can you just take a look and tell me all the different ways that this thing was breached? And just recently, we actually were called in on a case, where a computer was breached and we took the offensive mindset of it. Which this article talks about as well is, we could go through and we could look at every log and whatnot, but why don't we actually take a look at the server and see how we would have breached it?
Okay.
Right. So a red team angle at, what would have classically been a blue team or forensics team job. So I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. The other thing, and I know we're going to get a lot of ire from the standard software companies in the world who do cyber defense. But cyber defense a lot of times can be scare tactics and BS. It's, hey, I got this new snake oil that's awesome. Give us $1 million and we'll protect you. Not from everything, though, because who could protect you from everything? Well, what will you protect me from? Stuff. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to pay you millions of dollars
for
potentially protecting me against stuff. Yeah, exactly. And that's what cyber defense seems like. A lot of the really big cyber defense companies are like, oh, give us, $3 million a year and we'll do things. And it's like, well, you didn't see this attack. Oh, we can't see them all.
Right.
Or they'll stop some really simple attack and goes, huzzah, we stopped that simple attack. And it's like, okay, great. Is that worth $3 million?
I mean, basically, if you're spending money based on fear and not education.
Well, the problem is there is no panacea. So endpoint security is a perfect example. There are plenty of products out there that are really good at endpoint security. None of them are foolproof.
What's endpoint security for our listeners who don't
protecting servers and client machines and client devices.
Things that are on the internet.
Antivirus.
Basically intrusion detection systems that CrowdStrike and Carbon Black and those kinds of
more stuff we don't understand. But I think we
products.
can understand stuff that's connected to the internet that people connect to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those are endpoints.
So if you're a target of a high-end threats, you need endpoint security. You need those kinds of solutions, and they cost a lot of money. Some companies run multiples just because they're all fallible.
Yeah.
And so that's what Dwayne's getting at, is that the fallibility of these things is that people, they need defense in depth. So how many of these $100,000 solutions can you buy before you're 100% protected? There is no number.
Yeah, it drives me crazy, though, because we talk to customers all the time. We're like, oh, my God, I've spent, $10 million in defense and we still got hacked. And you're like, well, that's because right now, the cybersecurity world, a lot of them sell on fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's the
And Billy Bob clicked on the wrong thing because he wanted to get his Instagram badge. That's what happens.
Billy Bob? Do we really need to disparage the Southern colloquial kind of names?
I'll pick a different name
really?
if you'd like. I was thinking Billy Bob Thornton. I saw one of his movies recently.
We're already in trouble with our Southern friends. Let's not make it even worse. I love the South, love barbecue, Dixie, yes, love it. Peace out.
I told her you might be a redneck joke. I think I'm in good graces.
That's true. Well, okay, but you're not a redneck though. So Jeff Foxworthy can tell that joke, but
he can.
I think you've seen my complexion.
Yeah.
Oh well. Okay.
He's New Hampshire redneck.
New Hampshire redneck. Yeah. No, I won't say that joke, Patrick.
No. Moving on quickly.
So
this story just made me laugh out loud. I don't know the details of it. But anybody who all right, somebody else has got to do this because I'm just going to laugh my way through it.
You're talking about the James Webb
Telescope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is an example of somebody who's taking the fact that there's a lot of news and buzz around the James Webb Telescope and the fantastic images it depicts, and they ended up loading malware into one of the pictures so that when it's rendered, it infects a machine. So it's
what I find almost infuriating about this, although fantastic from the hacker side, is the fact that the way that this was sent is in an Office document. So they sent the picture, which is a legitimate picture. It's awesome. You've all seen it.
It is awesome.
But they just took the legitimate picture, put it in an Office document, and were like, oh my God, look at this picture. And people had to open it in Office. And then Microsoft saying that they're not blocking macros.
Yeah.
Hackers just put a macro in there to run in the background and download and run all of the nefarious things.
It's an amazing picture that shows hundreds of galaxies. I don't even know how many you can see with your naked eye, but there's so many of them. And I wonder which galaxy is harboring the evil code. And
it's
all of them. All of them.
It's that bright one in the bottom right.
Yeah, what quadrant? Hey, watch out for that galaxy.
So this is a classic case of, listen, if somebody sends you this image, who might be a friend, maybe their account got hacked, but images do not require Office. Like we all realize that, right? Somebody sends you a picture, like if your grandmother sent you a picture from some vacation she went on, she didn't throw them in a Word doc.
Right.
Like she just sent you a JPEG.
The most offensive one to me is somebody who sends you an email, and instead of just typing a question in the email, they put it in a Word doc and attach it. And you open the Word doc and it's just this question like, what time is dinner or something like that. Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I delete those.
Oh yeah.
Before
I don't even see those.
Yeah.
Burn before meeting.
Now I got to install. Here it's like I got to install Word. Oh, I haven't installed that in so long. How much is that going to cost? Oh, that's going to be a couple $100.
If I want to send you a picture and I put it in ISO and tell you how to mount it, don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just don't. You're
missing
out. You're not missing out on.
I'm too
all you're
old
missing
to
out
mount
on is an
ISOs.
infection.
I'm too old to go around mounting ISOs.
That's a young man's game.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, that's
I don't
an
have the
awesome
sandbox
story.
for that.
No. All right. And the last story, Checkpoint Research detects crypto miner malware disguised as Google Translate Desktop and other legitimate applications. What?
Yeah. So this is the old software that actually does something, but behind the scenes, it's not good. It's a Trojan. It's basically you download something. It actually does what it's supposed to do. It's a mortgage calculator. It's in this case, it's a translate on a desktop, and it does the thing it's advertised to do. You might even be happy with it, but then a month later, your system slows down, and so it's going to be hard for you to trace what you did that caused this, because you're going to think you hit a website that day that suddenly caused your website to slow down,
Right.
and everything else to slow down. So they're waiting a month to execute. And so this is why it's very difficult to diagnose systems. I get systems very often from people that are slowed down, and they try to get me to diagnose it.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys see the command and control? So we've talked about C2 in the past, and I don't know, it's funny. Even in the security world, people are like, "What about C3? What about C4?" Like whatever. But anyway,
I like
we
C4.
talked about C2, right? C4 go boom. So the C2 on the back end, which is a command and control structure that this particular piece of malware communicates with, is NVIDIAcenter.com.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like, I'm surprised they didn't get a cease and desist in some way from NVIDIA, but NVIDIAcenter.com is actually controlled by the hacksaws. And that's what's being used as the C2 in the back
So
end.
if I have an NVIDIA card and I have the NVIDIA control panel on my Windows machine, am I worried about that?
Well, you wouldn't notice the traffic as the key.
So NVIDIAcenter.com is not owned by NVIDIA. So yeah, you see any traffic to NVIDIAcenter.com, it's bad. What's also interesting is the executable is named PowerManager.exe. So they went to really interesting lengths to make sure that this would stay resident as long as possible without somebody noticing it. What's also awesome here is this is a crypto miner, remember?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to target people who have NVIDIA
Of
because
course.
they're going to crypto mine with the video card.
Wow.
So if you're like, oh, I don't have an NVIDIA video card, I'm just going to uninstall this thing that says it's NVIDIA or get rid of it or whatever, fine. But if you have an NVIDIA card, you want to pull all the graphics you can out of it. So if something pops up like Defender and says, this PowerManager.exe that's communicating to NVIDIAcenter.com seems malicious, you're going to be like, whoa, don't touch my NVIDIA, leave it alone. I'm going to,
And by the way, it's a Power Manager because I want more power.
Right? So kudos to the hackers on following the story here.
Yeah.
Not just phoning it in at the end. I'm impressed.
Did anybody check the grammar by any chance? No?
Did not. NVIDIA and Center are spelled right, and Center is spelled the U.S. way.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's the U.S.
Some would say
I'm
wrong.
just saying they're spelled right.
Some would say that's the wrong way. So as far as NVIDIA, doing a takedown notice, it would take a long time for them to get a website taken down.
Yeah.
And so they may have already started that process, but that's a good advice for all companies that they should be watching for squatters who are using their name, who are doing typos, and there's plenty of services that can that you can download. In fact, if you just go on the web, Google and search for them, I'm sure you can find them that use the NVIDIA Power Center behind the scenes.
Other than Google, you should go to a new website called NVIDIA Center.
Yeah.
I
get all my best software.
It's kind of like Google, but it's better.
But it's better.
All right, so
it's funny. So who's really good about these types of takedowns, like where the site is just typo squatted a little bit and that sort of stuff, is Microsoft.
Yeah.
Long time ago, Patrick and I created an application called Xbox Friends, and it would monitor this. Listen, before Xbox Live.
Wait a minute, is this before you got a conscience or after?
This is way before.
Way before.
So if you wanted to play Xbox or whatever with a friend, there wasn't this global system saying who was online. So we created an application you would run on your computer that would pop up a little piece of toast in the lower right-hand corner that would say who was playing what games. And we registered xboxfriends.com as our URL. And I'd say it was within 5 hours, Microsoft sent us hey, you two can't do that.
Why?
They were
the word Xbox.
really good because we use the word Xbox.
So what? It's a domain.
Yeah.
You buy your own domain.
No, sir.
We decided to keep our houses.
They sent us a very legal cease and desist.
We decided to keep our houses and change the domain name.
Okay.
I mean, we've had forays into all sorts of things. We also were the proud owners of a web DKP add-on for World of Warcraft for many years.
No idea.
We've done a lot of crazy stuff over the years. I used to run a Wildcat BBS.
Patrick,
so
you should stop talking now.
Wildcat.
Yeah. Actually, I ran.
You should stop talking now.
You didn't like the Oblivion BBS?
By the way,
Wildcat
anybody want to buy a Hayes smart modem
Wildcat.
from 1980?
Hayes 14.4?
No. 300, bud, man.
Yep.
300.
I started with 300. The upgrade to 1200 was awesome.
Sometime ask Richard Campbell about the hard drive from the 70s that he and his friend acquired that weighed 400 pounds. It was the size of a washing machine.
Yeah.
And he actually his friend connected it, wrote a controller with another Apple and connected it to his BBS, his storage.
I remember
20
that.
megabytes in the 80s was like unheard of, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I had my father's cousin was the director of MIS at Stratus Computers, and he said that when he was at Honeywell back in the day, his boss came in and threw these giant, like prehistoric cockroach looking things. They were RAM chips for the mainframe memory, and they were 128 kilobit, and they cost $150,000. They were $1 a byte, more than $1 a byte.
Wow.
We've come a long
I
way.
like that anymore.
No, back in my day.
All right, you people. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week. And watch out for that galaxy.
Always good.